Hey guys, this is Corey of Curb Free with Corey Lee, and thank you so much for joining me today for the eighth and sadly the final Curb Free from Home. So these past 8 weeks have been incredible. We've seen some amazing destinations. We talked with people in Gulf Shores and Orange Beach, Alabama, Wilmington, North Carolina, Costa Rica, Savannah, Arizona, all over the place. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope that you guys have enjoyed it as much as I have. And so today, for the last Curb Free from Home, we're going to be visiting Rochester, New York. So as you can see behind me, it is a beautiful city and one that I was lucky enough to experience 2 years ago for the first time. So when I typically think of New York, I think of only like New York City and never like the other cities in New York State. But when I visited Rochester, it really blew my expectations, and I was pleasantly surprised. So I know that you guys are going to love learning about it. So today I'm going to be talking with Rachael Pepino, who is the Director of Public Relations for Visit Rochester. So let's bring her in. Rachael, how are you?
Hi, Corey. I'm so good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited for everyone to learn about Rochester.
Thank you so much for having us. I'm so excited to spend a few minutes talking about Rochester, and it's just so good to see you, even if it's virtually.
Yeah, good to see you too. Can you start by kind of telling us about your role with Visit Rochester and kind of maybe like Rochester's location within New York State?
Sure thing. So Rochester is the third largest city in New York State. And I appreciate you starting off by saying that, there is more to New York State than New York City. Of course, we love New York City, but Rochester is actually, believe it or not, closer to Toronto than we are New York City. We are just 90 minutes from the Canadian border. We're on the southern shore of Lake Ontario. So when we talk about upstate New York, we're up there. We are upstate. So Rochester, as I said, is the third largest city in New York. I like to say that Rochester is a smaller city that never quite got the memo that it's not a big city, because any experience that you could have in a bigger city, you can find here in Rochester to some extent. So I have one of the best jobs in the world, because I, as the director of PR for Visit Rochester, which is the official tourism promotion agency here in Rochester, I get to promote Rochester and all the many reasons there are to visit here, to live and work here, but really to come visit. So I get to tell Rochester's stories, and I get to be its biggest cheerleader, which is just an amazing honor for me. But we are a fabulous city here in upstate New York. This time of year especially, there's nowhere else I'd rather be. Today it is 83 and sunny out.
Nice.
Perfect June weather for us. So yeah, it's a wonderful four-season destination, and I'm looking forward to sharing more about it.
Yeah, fantastic. And you were a really great director of PR. I mean, my experience in Rochester was spectacular. It's really a beautiful city that is terribly underrated, I think. And so I'm really glad that we're doing this to hopefully, shed light on a new destination for a lot of people watching, whether they live nearby and could do like a staycation type visit during this weird coronavirus era, or even if they're somewhere else in the US or Canada or internationally that they can visit maybe next year. But what is the current situation as far as like coronavirus goes in Rochester or even in New York State?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we right now are in the first part of our phase 4 of reopening per New York State. So here in New York, as I'm sure everybody knows, we as a state, and especially down in New York City, we're hit hard very, very quickly from the coronavirus pandemic. So we have been closed down since about mid-March. But New York State has applied a phased reopening. And what's great is the state actually is doing the reopening within different regions. So Rochester is a part of the Finger Lakes region. So sometimes you may hear, today New York City did XYZ in terms of their reopening, but we're actually in a different spot, and we are farther ahead. So here in Rochester, pretty much almost everything. There are still some larger things like movie theaters and amusement parks that are and malls that are still currently closed, but we're hopeful they'll be open soon. But all of our outdoor experiences are open. Our restaurants are open. Outdoor dining. Talked about the great summer weather we're having. So it's lovely to sit outside. Restaurants have reduced capacity indoor right now. And then our museums, just this past weekend, all of our museums and cultural institutions reopened. So for us, it feels like, the light is being turned on, and we're getting back to business, but safely. That's at the end of the day, we want people to come visit Rochester, but we ask that all visitors and residents that they follow some basic steps to help keep our community healthy and safe, and to keep the businesses open. So we at Visit Rochester actually just introduced something called the Rock Ready Promise, which is a list of steps that businesses are going to be taking to help promote a healthy and safe environment for their customers and their guests and their employees. And we believe it's a shared commitment, and that guests need to do the same. So whether that's using face coverings, washing hands, social distancing, all the things that we're doing anyway, but we put it into writing so that businesses can display that and let their customers know that they're taking these steps to stay safe.
Awesome. And where can people go to learn about what businesses are open already? Is it on the Visit Rochester website, or where can they find that?
Yeah, great question. So visitrochester.com is going to be your home base for everything in terms of learning more about that Rock Ready Promise, what's open right now, which, as I said, luckily that list grows and grows every day. And then we also have a Know Before You Go page, because the biggest thing is now, if you'd like to visit a museum, you're going to probably need to book tickets in advance. A lot of the museums and other cultural institutions have time ticketing. So getting your tickets in advance, booking everything online in advance. But the wineries, for example, now are open, but they request that you make reservations in advance, which is actually turning into an even more pleasant experience than before. So we were saying earlier, I'm all about finding the silver linings. And I think that for the hospitality community, some of these changes are going to be long-term improvements. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really hope some of the things can stay around too. I'm loving the curbside takeout from all the restaurants. It's so convenient, and just little things like that. And even discovering new outdoor experiences and nearby that I would have never done 6 months ago, so there is definitely some silver lining in it, although it's harder to find at times than others, I think. But we have quite a few people watching, so thank you, Lisa. Good morning. Thanks so much for watching. My mom is watching. She says Rochester was a fun city and absolutely beautiful. We have Michaela Malazzi of Bare Feet on PBS watching. And Anna Packman. Thank you so much for watching, Anna.
Hi, Anna.
And and Michaela told me about this the other day. There is actually a travel blogger that is from Rochester, and his blog is Travel Deeper. So if anyone wants to learn more, definitely check out that blog. And Josh Winterskill. Good morning from the UK. Nice.
Good morning.
Yeah, people from all over the world watching. And we were talking a little bit a few minutes ago about outdoor experiences. And I think now a lot of people, they are focusing more on the outdoors, just being outside, and they feel safer that way. So what are some of the top outdoor attractions and things to do in Rochester?
Yeah, I have definitely personally really gotten back in touch with nature during all this, because we have been definitely taking advantage of everything going on outdoors. And again, one of the great things about a city like Rochester is that you have the urban metro, the downtown core, where you've got these incredible arts and cultural experiences, and even beautiful architecture too. You can absolutely enjoy a leisurely stroll or a ride along throughout the streets of downtown Rochester and just see beautiful old historic architecture. But then even here within the city limits, we have, I hope everyone can see, High Falls, which is one of the largest urban waterfalls in the country. It's a 96-foot waterfall smack dab in the middle of downtown Rochester. So that's the Genesee River. The Genesee River starts in Pennsylvania and flows north through Rochester and terminates in Lake Ontario. Because don't forget, we're on the southern shore of Lake Ontario. Speaking of waterways, I always say that, here in Rochester, we have just about every single possible type of waterway you could imagine, except an ocean. I don't have an ocean, but I've got a Great Lake, we've got the Finger Lakes, we've got a canal, we've got a river, we've got a bay. I mean, you name it, we've got it, and you can get near it or on the water. So, but yeah, High Falls is an incredible spot to go and just enjoy this like serene sounds of a waterfall in the middle of a bustling city.
Yeah.
We've got
right beside it is the Genesee Brew House, which
yes.
I ate at when we were there. And, you can get some beer. They have a brewery tour. It's a really, great place to eat and a nice brewery tour with some good beer. So if you're into that, definitely check it out. It's right by the falls.
Yeah, the Genesee Brewery is actually the oldest brewery in New York State. It's more than 140 years old. I'm not quite sure how they continued through Prohibition, but we'll figure those details out. But yeah, the brew house is a fabulous spot with which to get to enjoy some food and some beer, but also a beautiful viewpoint for the falls themselves. And in the winter now for the holiday season, so New York City may have the Rockefeller tree. Everyone knows the Rockefeller tree. Here in Rochester, thanks to the Genesee Brewery, we have the keg tree. Yes, the Genesee Brewery constructs a Christmas tree comprised of beer kegs. I think more than 200. They light it up every year. We have a lighting ceremony, and music plays along with it. So it's pretty cool. But so yeah, High Falls is a fabulous outdoor experience. And then there's more than 12,000 acres of parkland here in Monroe County. We've got, which is where Rochester is. We've got parks as well that were designed by Frederick Law Olmsted of Central Park fame. And what we're seeing here, this is actually a gorgeous view of the city skyline from Cobb's Hill, which is a park with a beautiful reservoir that you can hike or bike alongside as well. And so this is a gorgeous view from Cobb's Hill Park here in the city. And then another great park I love to explore as well is Highland Park, which is the home of the largest collection of lilacs in North America, right here in Rochester, New York.
Wow.
And so
I didn't get a chance to go there, but I did go to Cobb's Hill, and they have like really nice picnic areas and all kinds of things. And we didn't have a lot of time, so we just did a drive-through. But I mean, even just driving through, I mean, you can see that incredible view of Rochester, and it's really, I mean, the best view in the city, like you said.
Absolutely. It's a tradition for my husband and I. Every summer we go and we have a picnic right at that view where that picture was just taken. We have a picnic and we watch the sunset. Right. And that's all free and easy to get to. And yeah, so I love Cobb's Hill. Right. But then too, I also love the Erie Canal. And I know you had the experience to get on the canal while you were here in Rochester. And the Erie Canal is a 200-year-old engineering marvel. And the canal runs, which actually connects Albany to Buffalo in New York State. It runs through 4 quintessential canal communities. These places look like they belong on the back of a postcard. They're, like being pulled from the 19th century, brought to life. And so each canal town has different ways to access the waterway. There's a tow path that actually goes the length of the canal. So it's a totally flat trail that's great for biking or for walking or jogging. And then there's also ways to get on the water. And so there's a couple different companies that will actually do either canal cruises or they actually offer kayak and canoe rentals. And I know, Corey, you had the experience to hang out with the folks from the Erie Canal Boat Company here in Fairport, New York.
Yeah, Rochester Accessible Adventure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so they are a phenomenal company, everyone. I definitely want to spend some time talking about them. So it's ran by Anita, who is there on the left, and that's her wife and their kid. And they have a phenomenal company called Rochester Accessible Adventure that offers adaptive kayaking. They even have like a lift there right on the boardwalk where it can actually get you from your wheelchair on the boardwalk and lower you down into the kayak. So they've taken care of the transfers. And here's a picture of one of the adaptive kayaks that you can see. So they have a full seat in there with a backrest and sides on it. And I mean, it's truly phenomenal what they have done. And they actually work with the Erie Canal Boat Company. So they have a joint collaboration there. They also have adaptive bikes. So you can do like a hand cycle with some of their adaptive bikes there on the Erie Canal path. I mean, it's a phenomenal company, one of the best that I've met in my 6.5 years of being an accessible travel blogger. And what they do is just incredible for the Rochester community, but also for travelers that use wheelchairs that are coming into Rochester. So if it's a nice, summer day, you want to get out on the canal for sure and try out, some adaptive kayaking, which maybe is something you've never done before.
And Rochester Accessible Adventures is just such an incredible resource here in Rochester. And I would definitely encourage any of your readers, your audience, anyone who's tuning in today that's curious about connecting with accessible activities here in Rochester. They should definitely be on the list to reach out to. Anita and her team are so plugged into the community, and she regularly works with other towns here in the Rochester area to help them improve their overall inclusion programs and accessibility. So Rochester Accessible Adventures should definitely be on everyone's list when you're planning your next trip to Rochester.
Yeah, the best. And I got this cool shirt too. So
love it.
Yeah, they're the best. And now that we've come to talk about another outdoor experience, actually, I want to mention is the Rochester Public Market. So it's partly outdoors, partly indoors. But when I visited, I mean, a lot of it is outdoors. So it's a really nice space. So many vendors there. I mean, you can get fresh fruit and vegetables, even a full meal. I had a donut for breakfast, I think, from one of the vendors there. I can't remember the name of the vendor, but it was delicious. They have all kinds of options there, though, that are really spectacular as well.
The public market, which has been around, by the way, since 1905 on that site. So I like to tell people that as you're going through the market, look down, because in certain spots there's bricks that have been there since 1905, which is just, it's kind of cool to know that you're in the same place that the community has gathered for so many years. And what's really neat about the market is that it's an experience that wasn't necessarily designed for visitors, for tourists. It was really designed for the community, but it's just organically become this place that people want to gather and see. And there's always something, there's performers sometimes like just playing guitars and making music, or there's, different pop-up restaurants, or just all these great different vendors that you can check out and get some really affordable, healthy, fresh fruits and vegetables. And I know I've been doing a lot of shopping there these past few months as well. It's been great to support local and just to be outside. So love the public market.
Yeah, when I was there, I was like wanting to buy everything and bring it back home, but I was like, this can't fit in my suitcase. So. But it's a wonderful place, whether you're a visitor or a local, for sure. Definitely visit it. And now that we've kind of talked about some of the outdoor experiences, let's talk about the indoor experiences. So I know that you mentioned that a lot of the museums and indoor attractions are opened back up now. But whether you're planning a trip now or even for 2021, I think it's good to know about everything that we can do. So let's talk about first, I guess, my favorite indoor attraction in Rochester for sure, the Strong Museum of Play. Can we talk about it for a minute?
I would love to. So the Strong Museum of Play is the only museum in the world, the whole world, dedicated to the exploration and discovery of play. It is for all ages, from 2 months to 102. There's something for everyone. So the museum is home to the National Toy Hall of Fame, the World Video Game Hall of Fame. I see here you are with the Ninja Turtles. So it's super interactive. It's really appropriate for all ages. And it just explores how the way we play relates to our history as a country around the world. And, there's super interactive areas. Like there's a Sesame Street brought to life on the first floor. Wow, you had that ready super fast. So the Sesame Street, a great photo op. One of my favorite little experiences is here in Rochester, we have Wegmans, which I'm sure we'll talk about too. But so there's a Wegmans supermarket for kids, like a mini market, where kids can play grocery shopping. And just there's a butterfly garden. There's a something called Reading Adventureland, which is like a storybook brought to life. And then there's also a superhero exhibit as well, super interactive. That's all on the first floor. Then you can go to the second floor where there continues to be interactive exhibits, but also some of that more traditional kind of archival materials and information and really rare items. So for example, yes, the museum has the original Monopoly board game. So you'll notice that it's round, which is different than what we would expect to see when you take it out of the box today. The story is that this board, the prototype here is round because that was the shape of Charles Darrow, who created Monopoly, the shape of his dining room table.
Oh, wow.
Your fun fact for the day. But so really rare artifacts like the Monopoly board game. There's the prototype for G.I. Joe. I always loved Barbie growing up, so there's a ton of Barbies. And what's great about the Strong Museum too is that no matter where you're from, what age you are, where you live now, everyone always has that moment where they go, oh, I had that. And you just have these like crazy nostalgia, and nostalgia is such a powerful emotion. So you always, everyone, I guarantee it, you go into the museum and you'll see something that will just stick with you. And also
that was me the entire time that I was there. They have like even like a life-size Connect 4. And I was like over there playing it. I mean, they have so many games that you can play. Like you could really spend a whole day there, or multiple days, I think, and just like have the best time of your life. And another exhibit that I enjoyed was the pinball exhibit. So
yes.
Like, pinball games, and you can play them. And I mean, it's so much fun, that museum is.
Yeah, it's a must visit. I mean, it's fully accessible, easy to get around, and the museum is reopened right now too. Just have to get your tickets in advance, but it's an incredible, incredible place and a must visit when you're in Rochester or anywhere even near Rochester. You must come and go to the Strong. Sure. You won't regret it.
Yeah, I was telling my 2-year-old niece at the time, I was like, we're going. Like, I'm going to take you to Rochester just to go to that museum. Like, it's that spectacular. Anna says she loves the Strong Museum, but she didn't have enough time to try the pinball machines. But
gotta go back, Anna.
Right, you got to go back. And my high school German teacher, Frau Schock, is watching from Pennsylvania. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. And what are some other indoor experiences? Can we talk about maybe the Eastman Museum? That was another one of my favorite museums that I went to.
Yeah, so Rochester is known for being the home of Kodak, and the founder of Kodak was George Eastman, and his historic, beautiful mansion on East Avenue, which is just a grand avenue with like these awesome old, beautiful big houses that are just fun to look at. But his his house is now a museum. So it's actually the world's oldest photography museum, and is home to one of the largest collections of films in the world. So George Eastman's museum, which by the way is going to be opening up in just another week or two. They have a brand new welcome center. They've actually been undertaking some construction improvements to improve the overall visitor experience. And so their entryway will be even more accessible now. Sometimes, there's different considerations with a house that was built in I believe his house was built in 1904, 1905.
Yeah, it was like early 1900s.
Around then.
Yeah.
So it's going to be even more accessible, which is great. But you've got the museum itself, which tells the story of George Eastman, which a lot of people don't realize that, so George Eastman didn't necessarily invent cameras, but he changed the way that we take pictures. He changed the way that we interact with cameras. People often say, well, what would George Eastman think about the fact that we're walking around with a camera now, right? And the folks at the museum will tell you he would love it because he was all about democratizing photography. Like before Kodak and Eastman, we've seen those Civil War soldier era, portraits, right? Where they're super serious. And it was like you took one picture and like maybe your whole life. Eastman and Kodak basically created this idea of the Kodak moment and of taking photos to capture and celebrate all of life's moments. So a visit to the museum explores this incredible, very interesting man who really changed the way we take photos, but also our community. He was incredibly generous and left behind a big legacy from a philanthropic standpoint. You can learn more about his life. You can see super old cameras and technology. You can visit and tour his gardens, which are beautiful. And there's even a movie theater within the museum, the Dryden Theater, which is one of just a few theaters in the whole world that can screen nitro film, or nitrate film, excuse me. So the term, the silver screen, if you're a film buff, you again must visit. It's a really cool experience. And George Eastman's mother actually was a wheelchair user herself. So
there's that's a picture of her wheelchair, actually. So pretty old school and probably not the most comfortable, but it worked back in the day. And there is like the same elevator that she actually used is still in the house, which I thought was just fascinating. And I was able to like use it. And the house, it is accessible because it's where she lived and he built the house to be accessible for her.
Definitely, which sometimes with a historic house, there are considerations and accessibility challenges. So it's really neat that, and when Eastman put in the elevator at the time, I mean, it was the top of the line technology. So yeah, it's a really cool place. And I also encourage people to visit the Eastman Museum when you come to Rochester, because it's a really kind of like one-stop shop to learn more about the history of Rochester in general, because so much of who we are today as a community is because of the work of Eastman. And two other just really fast kind of important figures in Rochester history I'd love to just let your audience know about. In addition to George Eastman, we are also the proud home of Susan B. Anthony. 2020 marks the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment here in the United States. And also we're the proud home of Frederick Douglass. So we have a really cool legacy of being this home of so many just visionaries who really like shaped the world around us. So we're really proud to be their home. Actually, Frederick Douglass and Susan B. Anthony were great friends in real life. And here in Rochester, they work together. So Susan B. Anthony's house is something that you can visit, and the first floor of that is fully accessible. And then there's also a tour of Frederick Douglass statues around Rochester, which is totally free. You can go to douglasstours.com and get that route too. So again, another really great way to learn more about Rochester's history.
Awesome. Yeah, that's good to know. And I didn't get a chance to visit those places, but next time for sure, got to do it. But the Eastman Museum, I loved how it was like half photography museum and then half you were just like touring his house, like George Eastman's house. So it's a mix of both. And the house is like really spectacular. I mean, this is like one of the rooms with the giant elephant head, as you can see. So it's, I mean, he definitely had a different vision than most people, which led to his immense success. So it is really a spectacular place to visit.
I agree.
And are there another indoor attraction you want to talk about, or anything else indoors?
Sure. So Rochester is known for being the cultural capital of upstate New York. We, for a city our size, just have an abundance of arts and culture. So we have so many great museums. Two I'll just mention quickly are the Memorial Art Gallery, which I think you got to visit when you were here. Yeah, they were having a festival. Yeah. So the Memorial Art Gallery, we call it the Mini Met. It's 5,000 years of art history that you can experience in 2 hours. So it's a really great way to experience and enjoy all this great art, but in like that is such a cool painting, but in a more just manageable way. So Memorial Art Gallery is a must visit, and it's just a beautiful building. Like the art inside matches the beauty of the architecture on the outside. And they also have a outdoor sculpture garden that is just a great spot to maybe, pack a picnic lunch and just sit and enjoy and take in like this incredible architecture. And then
I was just going to say, I loved about the Memorial Art Gallery that, you could be looking at in like the Asian art section, and then all of a sudden there will be something like this, like in that section. Like there is some order to the arrangement, but all of a sudden you'll like be surprised by just some random like cool piece of art. And I think that like kept it really exciting to like keep looking at all the sections, because you never knew what was around the corner.
And they also too, exactly, like the director's really smart about like taking pieces that are so unexpected, but when you kind of peel back the layers of the onion and you see that the structural makeup of this painting is the same as this painting of like a Pope back in, 600
Right.
or whatever, So it's a really cool spot and just a beautiful space. And I don't know if you got to visit here or not, but the Rochester Museum and Science Center is also a great spot. It's equal parts Rochester history, but also a big focus on STEM and science. There's a planetarium, which is a beautiful, awesome experience. So those are 2 additional indoor activities that I definitely recommend.
Yeah, and one more, I think we have to talk about it if we're talking about Rochester, is Wegmans. So before I went to Rochester, I posted here on my Facebook page that I was going, and every single comment was like, go to Wegmans, go to Wegmans, go to Wegmans. And I looked up what Wegmans was because I had no idea. And I was like, it's a grocery store. Like, why should I go to a grocery store? But then I went and I discovered why they said go to Wegmans. So Wegmans is a grocery store, but it's so much more. I mean, there are prepared foods. You can go to like a Godiva chocolate counter, which is pictured here. I had some really good sushi at Wegmans. So, I mean, it offers so much.
Yeah, Wegmans is people from Rochester are definitely obsessed with our Wegmans. We call ourselves Weg heads. So Wegmans was started here in Rochester in 1916, and it's now they have, I think, over 100 stores, or just about 100 stores throughout the Mid-Atlantic. And it's a great company. They're always being named one of the best companies to work for. And it's just an elevated grocery shopping experience. But again, for visitors, it actually is a great place to pick up lunch. There's so many prepared foods. And there's stores throughout the area, but you can grab some food, grab any essentials that you need. And it really is just a must visit, I guess, for folks. But I do like to always tell people that there is definitely, there's great spots in addition to Wegmans. We joke that like a local paper will do like a survey of like best places to take an out of town visitor. People will say Wegmans. I said, definitely Wegmans, but like, may I also recommend a museum or like, but I love Wegmans.
Yeah, definitely more to Rochester than Wegmans.
Yeah, that's actually our tagline. No.
Okay, no, I would bet, but it is definitely a good place to go to. And Frau Schock says Wegmans is a destination. There is one in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, and Hershey, Pennsylvania, also. So they're all over that northeastern area, I guess. But I'd never heard of it until I went to Rochester. But yeah, incredible grocery store and much more.
Yeah.
And can we come to talk about like if someone is wanting, to plan a trip to Rochester, where can they fly into? Is it an international airport? And then let's talk about, are there like accessible van rentals or transportation in the Rochester area?
Definitely. So you can easily fly into the Greater Rochester International Airport. There are 18 direct destinations which you can connect with. So Atlanta obviously is a great hub that connects to Rochester. So
really quick and easy 2-hour flight, like no problem at all.
Yeah. And if you're in the New York City area, literally is a 45-minute flight. You get on the plane, you're up, you're down. You barely have time to finish your snack. So if there's not a direct flight though, then there's a ton of connections that would easily get into Rochester. We also have a train station and a bus station, so Amtrak train. And then there are a couple different options for getting around. So if you are coming into the airport or one of the other major transportation centers, there are several companies that you can arrange to have a wheelchair accessible van, taxi cab. To pick you up in advance. There's a bunch of different companies that can coordinate that. But then if you're looking to spend more time and on the ground, and if you've got someone that is, someone that's going to be accompanying you that can drive like a rental car, for example, there's a great company here in Rochester called Agor Enterprises, AGOR Enterprises, and they have accessible van rentals that you can rent for as little or as long as you need, and they're great to work with. They can make sure that everything's all squared away to making sure that that you can get around town safely and easily. And then also our public transportation system, RGRTA or RTS, which is the Rochester Transit System, has accessible transportation as well. So definitely a couple different options.
Yeah, for sure. And I used a wheelchair accessible van rental when I was in Rochester, and it was just like really easy to get around with it. I mean, you could go from one place to the other and not have to depend on, like taxis and things like that, which are great as well. But if you do want the freedom of getting around Rochester, then I would definitely recommend, getting one from Agor and just getting a van rental and, going wherever you like within the city. So for sure, they have adaptive vans with like the side entry ramp and things like that. So fantastic company. And also, can we talk about once somebody is in Rochester and they have that van, where should they stay? So I stayed at the Strathallan Hotel. So it's a DoubleTree hotel, but it has like a really kind of boutique property feel. So it's a beautiful property in downtown Rochester. My room was accessible. The bathroom was perfect. It had like the fold down bench in the shower with a handheld sprayer, grab bars around the toilet, and in the shower, a pull under sink. All of the accessible amenities that I needed for my stay. So I would definitely recommend the Strathallan, but is there anywhere else that you want to mention or briefly talk about?
Yeah, the Strathallan is a gorgeous property. Actually, it's just steps away from the Memorial Art Gallery, and it is in Rochester's kind of like nightlife entertainment district. There's two other hotels in downtown Rochester, including a Hyatt Regency and also a Hilton Garden Inn. But then within the surrounding suburbs, there's a representation from almost every brand of hotel, whether your budget is more higher end or more value. There's really something for everybody. And every, I would just encourage folks, if they are interested, to definitely just reach out to that hotel. Just make sure that they know your needs so that way you can be positive that you've got the right setup and experience. Because I know the folks that are hotels will want to make sure everyone's comfortable and make it a great experience.
Yeah, for sure. And why would you say that? So, in like one or two sentences, what would be your pitch of why someone should visit Rochester if they're thinking about going to a destination in the Northeast?
So Rochester, as I may have said before, Rochester, you really can get the best of both worlds. So especially right now, if folks are more focused on being outside, you can have so many different outdoor experiences, but then within literally a 15-minute drive, you can be smack dab in the center of the downtown at a world-renowned museum. When we're able to have larger gatherings and events. We are a huge festival city. We have more than 140 annual festivals a year. So we're easy to get to. We're within a day's drive of 2/3 of the United States population. So, Cleveland is about 4 hours to our west. Boston's about 5.5, 6 hours to our east. New York City is about a 6-hour drive. As I mentioned, we're about 2.5, 3 hours from Toronto. So we're in this really nice, convenient spot in the Northeast where we're really easy to get to. And we're also a really great spot with which to kind of make your home base for a trip here in New York. So you could stay in Rochester and you're in Niagara Falls in 90 minutes. In 45 minutes, you can be at Letchworth State Park, which is the Grand Canyon of the East. We're the front door to the Finger Lakes wine country. So in 35 minutes, you could be on Canandaigua Lake. So it's just such a great area. And I feel so lucky to live here because I'm so conveniently located to so many amazing things here in the Northeast and in New York State. But we're just a beautiful community. Everyone is super friendly and welcoming, and we're affordable and accessible, and you can kind of get a little bit of everything. Plus, we have amazing restaurants.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would definitely agree that everyone that I met in Rochester is super friendly and accommodating. And it's such a fantastic city. I agree with everything you said. And I was only there like 3 days. So I definitely got to come back and see more. But what is Rochester doing to improve or showcase accessibility overall? Are there any like unique accessible initiatives that you would like to talk about?
Yes, definitely. So I want to plug again Anita and her team at Rochester Accessible Adventures because she is, I would say, for so many of the things I'm about to talk about, she's played a part in or is just constantly connecting with the community and really helping us as a community just be that much more inclusive and accessible. But there's a really cool initiative called the Miracle Field, which is in Webster, New York. So a suburb of Rochester, again, probably like 10 or 15 minutes from downtown. And so this field was specifically designed for individuals with any kind of accessibility needs. The field is made with a rubberized surface that's totally wheelchair accessible. There's bases and pitching mounds are painted onto the surface so that there's no raised obstacles. And the dugouts are enlarged to accommodate wheelchairs and other apparatus. And they all have also recently completed a fully accessible ADA compliant restrooms and concession stands, and are currently fundraising towards a fully accessible playground. But so we've actually hosted the Special Olympics here in Rochester, both the Winter Games and the Summer Games, several times. So there are a lot of athletic facilities that are kind of are more accustomed and are ready and eager to provide accessible athletic experiences. But the Miracle Field is something really special, and the folks behind it are just doing such great work. So there's the Miracle Field. And then I also want to share that in the town of Victor, they are working, which again is a suburb of Rochester, they're working on an inclusivity and accessibility project with Anita and the team at Rochester Accessible Adventures. And so they're actually putting an inclusion action plan in place for recreation to ensure that all the recreational facilities and programs are going to be inclusive and accessible. And then the team, there's an accessible basketball league, there's sled hockey, and wheelchair fencing even here in Rochester.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
Yeah, definitely.
I've never heard of wheelchair fencing, but I want to give that a try.
Got to come back to Rochester.
Right, got to. And for two last questions, kind of related. If you could only recommend 3 activities to someone visiting Rochester that uses a wheelchair, what 3 activities would you recommend out of everything that we've talked about today, and maybe even in things we didn't talk about?
It's really hard to narrow it down to just 3.
Sorry.
So I would definitely say that in terms of activities, the Strong Museum, top of the list for certain. My second is going to be just a generic bundle of one of the other great museums like the Memorial Art Gallery or RMSC or George Eastman, because the art and culture here really is something very special. And my third is the Erie Canal. I think that, whether you just want to, be next to it and enjoy the towpath, or taking advantage of the adaptive kayaking or cycling, it's just such an incredible natural resource. And we were talking earlier, I've personally been spending a lot more time outdoors. I've been doing a lot more cycling than I ever have before. And I can't believe how lucky we are to have these trails that are flat and well-maintained and just easy to get to, because I don't feel comfortable cycling on roads. I'm not that good of a biker. So I like to be in this kind of more safer, protected area. And that's why trails like the towpath along the Erie Canal, or even we have a riverway trail that runs alongside the river. They're protected and safer. And I think just a great experience for everyone.
Absolutely.
So those are my 3.
Yeah, I was going to say my 3, pretty much the exact same. Number 1, absolutely, Rochester Accessible Adventure. Get on the Erie Canal. Go adaptive kayaking, biking, whatever you can do, they'll make it happen. So that'd be my number 1, hands down. Number 2, definitely the Strong Museum of Play. It's the most unique museum in the world that I've ever seen, and the most fun. So definitely visit it. And then number 3, like you said, just like a museum. I did the George Eastman Museum and loved it. So I would definitely recommend that. But I'm sure the other museums are fantastic as well. So I can't wait to get back and visit them. And then let's talk about, I'm going to ask you one more difficult question, and it'll be the last one. So what are your top 3 restaurant recommendations?
Of course, you're asking me this right before lunchtime too. So I'm so hungry. So I would say, separate from a restaurant, because it's not a restaurant, I'll just once again say that Wegmans is a great spot to visit for get food, especially if you want to go have a picnic or something at one of those great parks that we talked about. But I'm going to go with Radio Social, which you got to check out. So Radio Social, they're not currently open just quite yet, but they are So cool. It's a bowling alley plus Israeli restaurant. Now they have a pizza stand, a pizza bar in there, cocktails, and then like games like shuffleboard or cornhole. So it is a social club, but super spacious inside, really easy to get around, and the food is amazing. So I'm going to give Radio Social a plug, and it's just super open and just a really welcoming environment. I'm going to go with my second restaurant because I'm really onto the Erie Canal right now. And I'm thinking about how lovely it would be to have lunch today outside next to the Erie Canal. So I'm going to plug Label 7, which is in the village of Pittsford, which is one of those canal towns. And you can have a lovely lunch outdoors or inside. But again, this time of year, it's so gorgeous to be outside next to the Erie Canal. And then I'm going to go a little bit higher end for my my third option, which is going to be Char Steak, which is actually inside of the Strathallan Hotel where you had stayed. And so if you want like just a really, kind of special occasion meal, Char Steak and Lounge at the Strathallan. And I'm going to sneak in one more, which is if you are downtown, there's a spot called Bar Bantam, which is in the Metropolitan Building. So Rochester, we didn't really talk about this, but Rochester, like so many other mid-sized cities, has seen like an explosion of revitalization in our downtown core. And we're seeing a lot of buildings be repurposed to be mixed use. So they're commercial and housing. And that's been a really good fit for bringing so much energy back into our downtown area. So the Metropolitan Building is this big, white, tall, like tower, can't miss it, in the skyline of Rochester. And on the first floor, they have a place called Bar Bantam, which is just a really cool spot to grab a cocktail or appetizers, and just you'd feel like you're in a huge major city, and then you realize you're right here in Rochester, New York. So I stuck one more in.
Yeah, good suggestions. And Radio Social, I would definitely, that was my favorite for sure. I am such a fan of Israeli food, and the hummus there, the falafel, the pull-apart bread is served with like multiple dips that you can like dip the bread in. Oh my God, so good.
The hummus is life-changing.
Yeah, isn't it like a carrot hummus?
They have different flavor. Like I think they change up the hummus of the day.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. I think I remember like a carrot hummus, but maybe that was just like while we were there or something. But it was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. But that's all of the questions I have. If you want to tell everyone, where they can learn more about Rochester, the website, or any last bits of info that you want to offer, we would love to hear it.
Awesome. Well, Corey, thank you so much again for this opportunity. It was so great to talk to you and your audience today about one of my favorite topics, which of course is Rochester, New York. So check us out at Visit Rochester, visitrochester.com. We're at Visit Rochester on all the social channels, and we're #VisitRock. We'd love to help your audience plan their next trip to Rochester, whether you're here in the New York area and you want to plan a local trip this summer, or planning for the future 2021. We can't wait to welcome you back to Rochester. And we're just a wonderful community. And I'd love for you to come experience and see just what makes Rochester so special.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you so much, Rachael, for joining me today. It's been a lot of fun. And hopefully, we've shown everyone what all cool things there are to do in Rochester. It's really a phenomenal city, and one that I underrated myself before going. But then when I went, it really blew my mind. And I can't wait to come back and experience a lot more. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on my Curb Free from Home series today.
Thank you, Corey.
All right. Thanks. Have a good day.
Bye.
And thank you all so much for watching the 8th and last Curb Free from Home. So it's been so much fun doing this series with you all, and can't wait to bring it back next summer and do even more awesome accessible destinations. But over the next month, we have some really exciting things planned. So definitely stay tuned here on Curb Free with Corey Lee. And thank you so much again for enjoying this series, submitting comments every week, and watching these videos. And if you want to see all of these videos, they are on YouTube. If you just search #CurbFreeFromHome, you'll be able to find all 8 of these videos. So definitely check that out. And thank you guys again so much for watching. Have a great weekend. See you later. Stay safe.